morning, dear learners. Welcome to teaching learning session of sociology. Today we'll discuss about historical methods. Uh, see, there are changes in the historical methods, and these changes in the historical methods are linked to change and growth in sociology as an academic discipline. With the time, there is a change in the academic discipline of sociology, and the changes in this historical method is associated and linked with these changes in the sociology as an academic discipline, right? As the historical method, this name implies that method which uses history to understand the society. Historical method, this name implies that the history, we use the history to understand the societies, as done by the Karl Marx and various other sociologists. We discussed about all these things, right? And this use of history helps us to understand the way in which the past has impacted and influenced the present day society. Why history is required, why we want to study, why we adopted this historical method to understand how the past has impacted and influenced the present day society, what we inherited from our previous societies, or how our society is different from the previous societies. So that is why these historical methods are very important, right? This historical method traces the development of the society or social institution over a period of time, as how there is a change in the society over a period of time, how institutions have evolved and changed over a period of time. And it may also trace the causes of change and the direction of change. See, changes are, it is very important to understand how it has impacted and influenced the present day society, how the past society has impacted and influenced the present day society, how the development of the how the previous society has impacted the development of various social institution over a period of time, and in which direction it has influenced the present day society. It is very important to understand all these things, right? There could be many sources of history. It could be assessed through sources like government records and the written accounts of the societies. The other source of society could include the accounts on artifacts, clothes, ornaments, weapons, and so on. How we compare and contrast the various societies over a period of time on the basis of the government records, or on the basis of the accounts written by the societies, or on the basis of the clause, on the basis of the weapon used by the people of those societies, on the basis of the ornaments they use, on the basis of the artifacts. So all these are the basis through which we can understand their history, right? Amongst the earlier thinkers to write on the use of historical method was A.R. Radcliffe Brown. Here, A.R. Radcliffe Brown was a British social anthropologist. He he said that it is very important to study history, to use historical method to understand society well, right? There are two methods to study history. The first is the deductive method, and the second is the inductive method. What is the deductive method and what is the inductive method? The inductive method is what is characterized by the growth of discipline in the middle of 19th century. This was used by the earliest anthropologist. So deductive method is that method that was characterized the growth of discipline in middle of the 19th century and was used by the earliest anthropologist. It relied on the direct and the indirect evidences, right? This deductive method relied on the direct evidences as well as indirect evidences. The historical explanation offered by evolutionists were often based on conjectures. This method was later used by those that Radcliffe Brown referred to as ethnologists. So then ethnologists use this deductive method, and the ethnologists focused on the study of popular aspects of the society or on the culture. Right, so ethnologists try to understand these societies, the popular aspects of these societies, or the particular aspects of the societies or the culture. The ethnologists were also critical to evolutionist. According to evolutionist, that society has, that present day society has emerged from the previous society, and this emerges, and the distance covered by these societies, that is from the past to the previous, is in a linear fashion. That there is a evolution in the society, but this evolution is unilinear, it is in the linear fashion. So ethnologists were critical to the evolutionist. According to them, it is not a linear type of an evolution. For ethnologists, the use of historical explanations are limited to a particular society or a culture. It is not based on the universal laws or explanations. So, as we all know, that according to ethnologists, this historical explanation is limited to a particular society, and these are not the universal laws. You cannot generalize these laws to each and every society. It is particular to a particular society or a culture. The second case, the method used to explain the society is inductive. After deductive, it comes inductive. This method is directed towards discovering the general laws governing societies. Right, so these are the method that directs towards discovering the general laws governing societies. So deductive, as per ethnologists, this deductive method is used for a particular society, and the results cannot be generalized. In the inductive method, these method directed towards the generalization of the laws governing the society. This method, according to Redcliffe Brown, was used by the social anthropologist. The inductive method in sociology and social anthropology is based on the field work, and it may offer historical explanation that are evidence based. Redcliffe Brown was the one who started this field work, or who emphasized on this field work, and according to Redcliffe Brown, this inductive method is based on the field work, and it may be historical explanation that are evidence based. It is directed towards the discovering universal laws or general explanation, which you can apply to each and every society. The inductive method, right? The evolutionist. The use of historical method can be traced in the second half of the 19th century. We discussed about it. The earliest approach of the study of this society was evolutionary in the nature. The earliest method which the sociologist adopted to study the society was an evolutionist type of evolutionist in nature, or evolutionary in nature. The evolutionary method is used to write about the history of the society, how the present day society has been emerged from the previous societies, and these studied societies and culture from the point of view of societies passing through successive stages. The assumption was that all society followed the same path of development, that they followed a unilinear path, they followed a linear path, they followed the same path of the development according to evolutionists. And the progress of society was viewed from a unilinear perspective, that there is that the present day society has evolved from the previous society, and this evolution is a unilinear type of evolution. All have followed the same path. Amongst the first use of method of social evolution was Herbert Spencer, an English philosopher, biologist, and anthropologist. So this theory, the evolutionist, the Herbert Spencer was the first evolutionist, and this method was used by the Herbert Spencer. Herbert Spencer was a philosopher, was a biologist, and an anthropologist. Spencer used the historical method when writing on the large scale transformation in the society. He wrote about the changes in the society from simple to compound due to change in the population size. He divided the society into two, that is the simple society and the compound society, and it is on the basis of change in the population size. On the basis of population size, Herbert Spencer has divided the society into two types, that is the simple society and the compound society on the basis of the size. The French philosopher and social visionary Auguste Comte, like Spencer, used the historical method. Auguste Comte is the father of sociologists and he is a French philosopher. So Auguste Comte used the same historical method like Herbert Spencer. At the time of French Revolution and the Industrial Revolution, he was trying to understand the changes taking place in this society. In his sixth volume, The Positive Philosophy, he set for the evolutionary perspectives on the development of society. He wrote the positive philosophy, and there are the six volumes of the positive philosophy. And in these volumes, he tried to explain the evolutionary perspectives on the development of the society, how the present day society has evolved from the previous society, right? And using this historical approaches, he deliberates the origin of human thoughts in his law of three stages. He has given a law that is known as the law of three stages, right? So in this work he traces the origin of all human society from theological to a metaphysical stage to a finally a positive stage, that is stage in which scientific explanation dominates. So according to Auguste Comte, the society has if the society has evolved from the previous society, and he used the historical method to explain these evolution, and he has given a law of three stages. And according to him, that the origin of all human society from a theology that from the theological stage is that stage where the human society has originated, and from theological society, because of the evolution in the theology, it leads to the metaphysical stage, and the metaphysical stage finally leads to the positive stage. And what is the positive stage? Positive stage is where there is a scientific explanation of each and everything, right? Similarly, Lewis Henry Morgan, L.W. Morgan, another prominent anthropologist, using the evolutionary method, he worked on the origins of the totemism, marriage, family, etc. He extensively worked on the marriage and the family, right? So he also adopted this evolutionary method. The other notable names amongst the evolutionists were James Fraser, whose work was on the origin of the totemism. His method influenced the scholars like Durkheim. The evolutionary approach believed that all societies evolved along a single path of development, that they followed a unilinear path. They followed a single path of evolution. They have evolved using the single path. There is a unilinear development of the society, right? And this is known as the unilinear progression. Some societies were at the earlier stage of development compared to the others. The history of all society was viewed from evolutionary perspectives. The evolutionists were criticized for their belief that all societies were similar and that they all follow the same path of development. According to evolutionists, whether it's Spencer, whether it's Fraser, whether it's Morgan, whether it's Auguste Comte, they said that all society followed the same path of the development, and it is the present day society has evolved from the previous society, and this evolution is a unilinear progression, that all society followed the same path of evolution. And these evolutionists have been criticized. They were criticized for their belief that all societies were similar and that they all followed the same path of the development. How is it possible? How could they? The inductive method, the ethnologist. That was the inductive method used by the evolutionist, now ethnologist. According to ethnologist, the ethnologist used history differently. They do not focus on evolution. The ethnologist use the historical method to study the society and their culture. See, the evolutionist used the this method. Hmm, Historical method to understand the evolution of the society, and according to them they followed a unilinear path, but ethnologists used history to understand the society and their culture, and such method explains an institutions or an particular aspects of the culture by tracing its development over a period, because these ethnologists stressed on the particular aspects of the culture or on the uh, or particular society. So they tried to understand the evolution of the institution over a period of a time, or any other particular aspects of the culture, and tracing its development over a period of time. They try to understand the development of institutions or any other aspects of the culture over a period of time, how it has been evolved over a period of time, and in which direction it has been evolved. It explains the change in society by linking it to a particular stage of development in the society. The use of historical method in this way establishes a specific connections within a particular aspects of a culture. So by using the history to understand how it has been evolved, how this institution has been evolved and in which direction it has been evolved, right? It establishes a specific connections within a particular aspects of a culture. The use of historical method, right, they establishes a specific connection within a particular aspects of a culture, how it was and now how it is, how it has been evolved. The historical method in this case relies on both quantitative and qualitative data. So they used both type of the data, the qualitative data and the quantitative data, right? And they relied on the factual data. These factual data were available through official records and other government sources. If there are no official records available, then they what they do, they construct the hypothetical reconstructions of the past. They hypothetically reconstruct the past and try to understand the evolution of this society. Ethnological knowledge for Redcliffe Brown is a method of historical reconstruction of the past specific to a particular society or a culture. So, as per Redcliffe Brown, this ethnological knowledge is what? Ethnological knowledge is the reconstructions of the past of a particular, of a specific, to a particular, of a past specific to a particular society or a culture. That is, you can reconstruct the past of a particular society or a particular culture, and it is not based on the universal laws or the explanations. As per ethnologists, that there is an evolution in the culture, but that is related to that particular society or the culture, and you cannot generalize or universalize the law. So as per evolutionist, you can generalize the law using the inductive method, but as per ethnologist, uh, these you cannot generalize or universalize the laws or the explanations. It varies from culture to culture or society to society. Right. A real history of Redcliffe Brown is where documentary evidences are available, right? Or if there is no documentary evidences available, then you reconstruct the hypothetical past, then you cannot say that that is a real history as per the Redcliffe Brown, right? The development of ethnological methods. What are the development of ethnological method? The development of ethnological methods critiquing the evolutionary method began towards the ends of the 19th century and earlier 20th century. The ethnological method, explaining the cultures using historical method, has varied over a period of time. It can be broadly divided into four phases. They criticize the evolutionary method, and this ethnological method explains the culture using this historical method, and we can divide it into four phases, right? First is Granberg and his followers. In Germany, the cultural historical school was influenced by Fritz Granberg. Granberg believed that the task of ethnology was to reconstruct historical context between the people and culture. So, Granberg, he was in Germany, and Granberg believed that the task of ethnology was to reconstruct historical context between the people and the culture. According to him, the work of ethnology is to connect past with the present of a culture. Or, right? Historical explanation about society were offered from the cultural history point of view. The German scholar, following the Grebner, believed that culture was transmitted from one region to another through process of diffusion. Right? What is diffusion? When there is when one culture is impacted by the other culture, that is known as the diffusion. And according to the German philosopher and the scholar Granberg, the culture was transmitted from one region to another through the process of diffusion. Right, when the people move from one place to another place, there is a diffusion in the there is a change in the culture, and this culture has been transmitted from one place to another. And they viewed this a very important way for development of the culture the world over. And according to them, because of the diffusion of the culture, because the people moved from one place to another with their culture, and this is one of the reason for the development of the culture all over the world. Grabner compared both the quantitative and qualitative feature in the context of two cultures. It is not necessary, according to this school of ethnologists, for two cultures to come into contact with each other. Right, as per this school, see, there is a diffusion of the culture, but it is not required. As per this school, it is not required that two culture to come in contact with each other. They might not come in contact with each other, but still there is a diffusion. They might be impacted with the culture of one society or the another society. The contact could have happened sometime in the past, right? Grabner himself studied the Africa, North America, and South America using this method. So, according to the Grabner, it is not required that these culture which has impacted each other, they might not be in contact. It is not required that they should be in contact. They might be there might be some type of a contact happen sometimes in the past, right? So he studied the Africa, North America, and South America using this method. Another is WHR River. Williams Hales was an English anthropologist and the ethnologist. River used the historical method differently from the Grabner and his followers. He believed that when culture comes into contact with one another, then a new feature could appear. According to the Grabner, there is a diffusion in the culture that one culture might impact the other. They might not be in the direct contact with each other. But according to the River, when the cultures come into contact with each other, then a new features could appear. These feature could have been completely absent in either of the culture. A new feature comes up, and this new feature could be something that which is totally different from the previous features. As a result of contact of a new feature appeared or developed. From him, unlike Grabener, contact between the culture was essential. According to Grabener, it is not essential that there should be a contact between the two cultures. But as per River, the contact between the cultures are important, and this might give rise to a new type of a completely different feature, right? A completely different new feature, and this feature could have been completely absent in either of the cultures. And for this, it is required that both the cultures should come in contact with each other. Elliot Smith and Williams James Perry, they explained the similarities in the culture from the point of view of diffusion from a common center. See, understand, according to Grabner, culture can move from one place to another on the basis of diffusion. It is not required that the culture should come in contact with each other. But according to this River, it is required a new feature could come up, and it is required that both culture should be in contact with each other. But according to Elliot Smith and James Perry, the similarities in the culture from the point of view of diffusion from a common center, that they have been there is a similarities in the culture, right? How there Why there is a similarity in the culture? Because of diffusion from the common center. If they find similarities in the culture which may be located in geographically unrelated regions, then they explain it from the point of view of diffusion from a common center in historical past. If two cultures are located geographically unrelated regions, if they are far away, but if you find some similarities in their culture, then according to Elliot Smith and Williams James Perry, right, that this could be because of the diffusion from a common center in the historical past. There must be a common center, and people might have moved to the different places from this common place. So there might be a diffusion from a common center in the historical past, right? They denied that they may have developed in an unrelated manner. Unlike River and the Grabner, they believed that flows from one center to the rest of the world. Both Smith and Perry believed that Egypt was the center for all cultural diffusion. See, according to them, that culture has moved from one place to other places, and according to Perry and Smith, according to Perry and Smith, that center is Egypt. From the Egypt, that culture has diffused to the various places, and the Egypt was the center for all cultural diffusions, according to Smith and Perry. Right. So, American Historical School, in America, Lewis Henry Morgan, following in the footstep of River, mapped the genealogy and the American Indian tribes. Morgan used extensive data to establish the unity of various kinship systems. He examined the way in which the structure of the family and social institution changes and develop. So, Morgan extensively worked on the kinship and the family system, and he followed the footstep of the Morgan, right? He used various data to understand this kinship and the family system. After Morgan, Franz, a German born American anthropologist, and later his student A.L. Kroeber, focused on explaining the data through the use of historical explanations. Boas was critical of evolutionary perspective, and instead proposed that the culture develop historically through process of diffusion when people interact with one another. So as we all know that Morgan followed the evolutionary path, but Boas was critical to this evolutionary perspective. Right, according to him, that the culture has developed historically through a process of diffusion when people interact with the each other. Right. Ethnological methods. In the 18th and 19th century, there is a shift from evolutionary perspective to the ethnological perspective. For ethnologists, the development of a culture could be explained through culture coming into contact. Right. So, evolutionist said that there is a unilinear type of evolution in each and every society, and we can generalize this type of a law. Right, we can universalize this, but ethnologists said that we cannot universalize the law, and in the 18th and 19th century there is a shift from the evolutionary perspective to the ethnological perspective. Right, and the for the ethnologist, development of the culture could be explained through the cultures coming into contact. There is a development in the culture when culture come in contact with each other. There could be because of diffusion and other methods. Right, the contact between the culture was viewed differently in the different parts of the world. There was lack of agreement amongst the ethnologists the use of historical methods. Ethnologists contributed greatly to the use of historical method to study society. So, ethnologists contributed greatly to the use of historical method to study society. Ethnologists said it is very important to study the history so that you can relate the present, the change or the evolution of the society or a particular aspect of the culture with past with present. So you can only relate past with present on the basis of the historical methods or on the basis of the history. Right, such method explains an institutions or particular aspects of the culture by tracing its development over a period of time. Right, so these evolutionists the ethnologists try to explain the institution or a particular of aspect of the society by tracing its development over a period of time. Right, whether this particular aspect of the is there any change in this particular aspect of the institutions of the society. Right, if yes, what type of a change is this, in which direction this change has been done. Right, so all these are required, and for ethnologists that study of history plays a very important role in this. It explains in the change in society by linking it to a particular stage of development of a society. Only if you can link the past with the present, then only you can understand the change, whether there is a change or not, and if there is a change, in which direction this changes. This labeling as ethnology was an attempt by Redcliffe Brown to break away from the historical studies. Deductive method, the social anthropologist, ethnologist were more focused on understanding the development of the culture. They often uses sources of history that were not written, which could include artifacts, customs, and so on. Official sources and documents were also used, but they were used more in terms of understanding the specific events or the occurrences we explained it. As opposed to the methodology of ethnologists, Radcliffe Brown proposes the use of other term social anthropology for those who formulate the general laws for the society. So anthropologists try to relate the past with the society on the basis of the history, and they use the various type of the documents to understand the change in the past, to change from past to the present, and they uses the artifacts and other customs and so on. And then Redcliffe Brown suggested or proposed the use of a term social anthropology for those who formulate the general laws for the society. Ethnologist, according to ethnologist, you cannot formulate the general laws for the society. But according Radcliffe Brown proposes that the social use social anthropology. This social anthropology could formulate the general laws for the society, and their focus is not on the specific aspects of the society, unlike the ethnologist, right? Because ethnologist focused on the particular aspect of the society, but anthropologist, their focus is not on the particular aspects of the society. The task of social anthropology is to in this method was to discover the universal laws of the society. He focused on the studying the social morphology, the social physiology of the society in order to discover the universal laws governing them. So, to make the generalized laws or the universalized laws, Radcliffe Brown focus on the study on the social study on the study on the morphology of the society or the physiology of the society in order to develop or govern the laws, in order to develop the laws which governs the society. A knowledge of history helps to discover the social structures and the function. This is, however, an indirect use of the history. So, Radcliffe Brown, according to Radcliffe Brown, history is required to understand the social structure and the function. That is all. And after understanding the social structure and the function, now anthropologists could study the society, the morphology of the society, the physiology of the society, so that they can formulate the generalized law. The only use of history, according to Radcliffe Brown, is to understand the social structures and the functions. The focus is on the society at present and not events that have happened earlier. So, important thing is to understand the present society, not what has happened in the past. It is required to understand the social structure and the function. According to Radcliffe Brown, the historical explanation by historians are concerned with particular and not generalized in nature. Social anthropology for Radcliffe Brown explains society in terms of sociological laws, and not in terms of reconstructed the history. Ethnology, according to him, used unverifiable guesses which could not be verified. As per Radcliffe Brown, ethnologists used unverifiable guesses. You cannot verify those guesses, right? And the use, according to Radcliffe Brown, the social anthropology is social anthropology tries to explain the society in terms of the sociological laws, and it is not in terms of reconstructing the history. While ethnologists, what they do, they reconstruct the history. Facts and data for anthropologists had to be gathered through the field work. So Radcliffe Brown is the one who emphasized on the field work, or who started this field work. If you, according to Radcliffe Brown, he coined this term social anthropology. And if you really want, according to Radcliffe Brown, it is important to understand the present society, the history. You should have knowledge about the previous society, the morphology of the previous society and the physiology of the previous society, so that you can better understand the present society. And to understand the present society and to make the rules generalized or the universalized, it is important to gather the data through field work. Field work is important, right? Historical methods. Later times, French sociologist Emile Durkheim used this historical method. He drew from the work of Marcel de Collin, the French historian, for his books The Division of Labor in the Society, the Elementary Form of the Religious Life. He also wrote on the history of education in the French. We all discussed all these things while we were discussing the Emile Durkheim. Tönnies, a German sociologist, retained an interest in the past. Wilfred Pareto, he developed the notion of circulation of elites in the society, right? He discussed classical Athens, Rome, Spartan society, and took example from the history of Italy in Middle Ages. So they emphasized, whether it's Pareto, whether it's Tönnies, whether it's Durkheim, they emphasized on the history, the use of the history to understand the present society. In the 20th century, social anthropologists following the Radcliffe Brown were more focused on the discovering the generalized rules of the society. And this was an attempt to make sociology and social anthropology as scientific as the natural sciences. So, in 20th century, the social anthropologists tried to follow the Radcliffe Brown, and they were more focused on making the generalized laws. And this was an attempt to make the sociology and the social anthropology as scientific as the natural sciences. The use of the historical method in India. Sociologists in India used historical text to understand the social reality. Many of them were Indologists like G.S. Ghurye. G.S. Ghurye is known as father of Indian sociology, and he is also known as the armchair sociologist. He extensively used this historical method to understand the Indian society. Louis Dumont. Louis Dumont used history to try, and he tried to understand the culture of the India using Vedas and other sculptures and the books. Then Ketikar, M.H. Kapadia, and Iravati Karve. All these are Indologists who used this historical method. At Bombay School of Economics and sociologist Ghurye and his students extensively used historical and Sanskrit text to study contemporary social structures and institutions. This exemplified the use of history for a macro analysis, right? So Gure is father of nation. He was the HOD of the of sociological department at the Bombay School of Economics and Sociology, right? So he extensively used this historical and the Sanskrit text to study the contemporary social structures and the institutions of the India. A substantive use of history in the study of the society is seen in the work of A.R. Desai, D.N. Majumdar, D.N. hypothesis, and to the theory building. Comparative method refers to the study of different types of the groups and the society in order to determine analytically the factor that lead to the similarities and the differences. When we want to study the similarities and the differences, or when we want to compare and contrast the two groups of the different society or of the same society or the two same society, we use this comparative method. When sociologists choose to observe only a part of a surrounding social realities, and the choice always represents a comparison of the selected phenomenon under observation in relation to the other social phenomenon. In comparative method, that they chooses a certain phenomenon which is under observation, and they compare and contrast that phenomenon of the two society or with other phenomenons of the society. That depends. what type of the comparison you want. Durkheim and comparative method, as I told you, Durkheim used this Durkheim was the first to seriously use the comparative method correctly in the scientific senses. So he was the first one who used this comparative method correctly and in the scientific senses. And it is central to Durkheim vision of the sociology. According to Durkheim, to demonstrate that the given phenomena is the cause of the another, we have to compare the case and employ the comparative method. Because we all know that Durkheim used the phenomena of uh, causal relationship, cause and relations phenomena, current Karan. He has given that current Karan that he tried to explain that a given phenomena is a cause of another, right? This phenomenon is a cause for the another phenomenon or a result of some another phenomenon. Right. So to understand, according to Durkheim, to demonstrate that a given phenomenon is a cause of another, we have to compare the cases and employ the comparative method. Sociological explanation require establishment of cause-effect relationship, current relationship. That is the cause-effect relationship. This phenomenon is a cause for another phenomenon, or this phenomenon is a result of some phenomenon. Cause-effect a relationship. Since social phenomenon can escape the control of experimenter, comparative method is the best study for sociology. See, you cannot control the society. You cannot study the society as we can study the natural sciences in a controlled way. In natural sciences, we can create an atmosphere which is under our control. But if you want to study the society, you cannot control it. So that social phenomenon is not under the control of experimenter. So it is according to Durkheim that comparative method is the best suited method to study sociology or society. Durkheim was not in favor of method advocated by Mills, but he was positively inclined towards the method of concomitant variations. It is possible to establish concomitant variation within the society with regard to a particular social current. Then it would be necessary to compare different society or the same society at different times. So he was that Durkheim was not in favor of the methods used by the Mill, but he was positively inclined towards the concomitant variation. And according to him, it is possible to establish the concomitant variation within the society, right? That is regard to a particular social current, that it would result that it would be necessary to compare the different societies at the same time or at the same society at the different time. So it depends. Comparison of the several society of the same species applied only to the phenomenon which originated during the same time. If you want to compare and contrast these two society, that should be you can compare and contrast the two society that they have originated at the same time. Then only you can compare and contrast. The most complex social phenomenon can only be explained after most extensive historical and cross-cultural comparison is carried out. So, the most, according to this Durkheim, this most complex phenomenon can only be explained after the most extensive historical and the cross-cultural comparison is carried out. Then only you can compare and contrast. In doing comparison, if some error is made, it can lead to misleading results. People have compared society at different stages of their evolution. You should not do this. Prior to writing the rules of the sociological methods, Durkheim has sowed the seed of comparative method in his work, The Division of Labor. So, in Division of Labor, he used this method. He has sowed the seeds of comparative method, right? He used the comparative method to study the change from mechanical to organic solidarity in the society. So he compared the primitive society with the present society, that is the mechanical society to the organic society, that is from simple to the complex society. He studied the simple society, compared and contrasted the mechanical society with the organic society or organic solidarity. He compared the legal system of the various societies and showed that they differed according to how many laws were based on the principle of repression and restitutions. We discussed about the laws of repression and the restitution. In mechanical solidarity, there was a law of repression, and in organic solidarity, there is a law of restitutions. He took the relationship between these laws as an index of the type of solidarity in the society. John Stuart Mill's method. Now, the John Stuart Mills used some methods. That is, the first is the method of agreement. What is the method of agreement? Mill's rule of agreement says that if in all cases where an effect occurs, there is a single prior factor C that is common to all those cases, and then C is the cause of that effect. See, the method of agreement, that Mill's rule of agreement says that if in all cases, if you are comparing cases, and if in all cases where an effect occurs, there is a single prior factor C that is common to all those cases, and then C is the cause of that effect. If effect occur to all those cases, there must be some common factor, and this common factor must be a cause of that effect. The method of difference. This rule says that where you have one situation that leads to an effect and another which does not, the only difference is the presence of a single factor in the first situation. We can infer this factor as a cause of the effect. See, if there is an effect in the one situation and not in the another situation, then we can say that the only difference is the presence of a factor, single factor in the first situation. There must be a single factor present in the first situation, not in the second fit situation. Then we can infer that this factor has for the cause of the effect. This could be the cause for the particular effect. The joint method. The joint method is a matter of applying both the methods of agreement and the method of differences. So, application of joint method should tell us that it is the belief which is the cause of this time. Joint method is when you apply both the methods of agreement and the methods of differences, and the joint method tell us that it is the belief which is the cause of this time. What is the cause of this time? This is the joint method. The method of concomitant variation. The method of concomitant variation says that if across the range of situations that leads to a certain effect, we find a certain property of effect varying with variation in a factor common to those situations, then we can infer that factor as the cause. Concomitant variation, understand this thing. Concomitant variation says that if across a range of situation that leads to a certain effect, if across a range of situations, there are the ranges of situation, and these ranges of situations leads to a certain effect, all this situation leads to a certain effect, we find a certain property of effect varying with variation. We find that certain property of effect varying with variation in factor common to those situations. There must be some common factor, but this common, there must be a variation in this common factor, and this variation in common factor might lead to uh, uh, variation in the effects, right? Then we can infer that factor as the cause. See, there are the various situation. Method of concomitant variation states that there are the various situation, and all these situation leads to a certain effect, but there is a variation in the effect, and this variation in the effect in this in different situation is because of the variation of a common factor, right? Right, I'm reading it again. The method of concomitant variation says that if across a range of situation that leads to a certain effect, we find certain property of the effect varying with variation in the factor common to those situations. The effect varies according to variation in the common factor, right? Then we can infer the factor as the cause, right? This is concomitant variation, method of concomitant variation. Then the method of residues. According to method of residues, if we have a range of factors believed to be the causes of the range of effects, then we have reason to believe that all factor except one factor C are causes for all effects except one. Then we should infer that C is the cause of remaining effect. Residues, the method of residue states that if we have a range of factors, and we believe and factor the range of factors that believed to be the cause of the range of effects, these factor causes a range of effects, and then we have a reason to believe that all factors except one factor C are causes for all effects, right? Except one, and then we should infer that C is the cause of the remaining effect, right? So today we discussed about the historical method, why historical method is important, how historical method is important, and how it has been used by the social anthropologist and the ethnographist and the evolutionist, right? Historical method is important to understand the evolution of the society from the previous one, how different the present or the contemporary society is from the previous society. And the evolutionist like Herbert Spencer, Auguste Comte, Morgan, according to them, that society has evolved from the previous society, and this type of evolution is a unilinear type of the evolution. This type of evolution is unilinear, that all society follows the same path, right? This is the evolutionist. According to evolutionist, according to ethnologist, that you cannot generalize the laws of the society. They try to understand the specific aspects of the society or specific institutions of the society, right? According to them, you cannot generalize this, and they use the history to link the present society with the past society, how that particular aspect of a culture is different to the previous, how there is a difference in the aspect in the previous and the past and the present society. Redcliffe Brown coined a term, that is the social anthropology. According to Redcliffe Brown, this social anthropology is important, right? And the field work is important if you want to generalize the rules of the society, right? And then we use the comparative method, and the Durkheim used this method extensively, and various other sociologists and anthropologists also used this method. That's all for today. Thank you very much. Namaskar.